Hello everyone, I'm Rob Pope, as you can see. People call me all kinds of things actually, you know, I get Gandalf quite a lot. I've had a little bit of a tidy up, so I don't get that so much, but you know, I still get Grizzly Adams, I get Jesus quite a lot, and that fella off Castaway. But it's actually another one of Tom Hanks's characters that I'm a bit more well known for, you know, looking a bit like recently. Have any of you seen the film Forrest Gump? Excellent, that's good. Well, that's not Tom Hanks, by the way, that's me. So, many of you who haven't, I'll give you a bit of a rundown. Now, Forrest Gump was a film about a young lad growing up in Alabama. Now, he was brought up by a single-parent family, like me, raised dutifully by his mom. He had a bit of a tough time when he was young, because Forrest thought a little bit differently to maybe the likes of you and I. He was also born with a crooked spine and had to wear calipers on his legs, which made him a target for the local bullies, so a little bit rough, but nobody would even sit next to him on the school bus, apart from Jenny, who would go on to become the love of his life. Now, one day when Forrest was being chased by these bullies throwing rocks at him, he realised that he could actually really run like the wind blows. So much so, he was picked for the local university football team and went on to become an All-American hero. Later on in life, he'd become a Vietnam veteran. He would go and become a champion ping pong player. And then eventually, honouring a promise to his lifelong friend Bubba, he becomes a shrimping boat captain. One day after a hurricane blows away all the other boats in the port, Bubba Gump becomes the biggest show in town and Forrest becomes a gazillionaire. He had more money than Davy Crockett, but as we all know, it doesn't always bring you happiness. Now, Forrest's poor mum died of cancer, and then Jenny rejected his marriage proposal. He was heartbroken. So one day, he decides to make a decision that would change his and eventually my life forever and create one of the greatest scenes in movie history. He puts on a pair of Nike Cortez, which are a gift from Jenny. They weren't even retro then, just like these ones. And he starts running. He runs for 3 years, 2 months, 14 days, and 16 hours. Now, in that time, that's 15,248 miles and 5 times across America. Now that's where I come in, because people have debated whether this run was possible, whether you could even survive it. Now, I'm a vet, that's my job, and so a scientist, I guess. I decided the only way to actually prove whether it was possible was to do an experiment with a survey sample of 1. Now, for the scientists among you, you know that's not really good science, but hey, it was all I had, and I thought it'd be a lot of fun. And so basically, I decided to run. You just think, well, run from where? I found myself in a barber shop in Mobile. I had all my hair shaved off and I had a clean shave. I put this cap on, actually, faded from the sun. And I decided to do just the same thing. I ran across Alabama and Mississippi in 2 days, Louisiana in 10, and then Texas in a month. Now, I wasn't getting slower. These states were just getting seriously big. And I ran from Beaumont to El Paso, and then I found myself in the Wild West. I actually watched the last presidential election in a Wild West saloon in Tombstone, Arizona, where the gunfight at the OK Corral had happened 135 years previously. I was living history. Eventually, I get myself to California, Hollywood, Santa Monica. I ran clear to the ocean. I'd run across America. I'd run across America in 72 days. But, you know, seeing as I'd run that far, figured I may as well turn around and keep on going. So I headed to the East Coast. I went solo in Tennessee. I'd been supported by my girlfriend, Nadine, my Jenny, up until that point. But we had to go home because the savings had run out, you know. So I carried the journey on with a pushchair that I named Pram Solo because I was beginning to look a little bit like Chewbacca. I'm sure you all get that film reference. So I ran past the White House. The president wasn't in. Through Times Square. Then did the Boston Marathon twice because, well, why not? Eventually, I got to another ocean, the Atlantic, and the Marshall Point Lighthouse in Maine. But you guessed it, you know, just like Forrest, I turned around and kept on going. I got through Chicago, up to the wild north, where luckily I was rejoined by Nadine, and she took me through Glacier National Park in Montana, down the West Coast states. And 10,000 miles later, I became the first person to run across America 3 times in a year. Down to San Francisco, and then it was across one more time to the Atlantic. So I had to battle winter in Wyoming, cross the Rockies, go across the Great Plains, and then eventually get to the ocean in South Carolina. Growing a pretty cool beard, I think you'll admit, in the process. I had shin splints, I ruptured a quad, I had Achilles tendonitis, more pelvic issues than you could shake a stick at, but eventually I knew I had to turn around and, fulfill my destiny. So I found myself in the Navajo Nation, surrounded by first a few, and then up to about 100 people followed me down the road until I eventually, just like Forrest, got to the same point, turned around and said I'd need to go home. So I'd run 15,607 miles in 422 days. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. You're like, that's just mad. Why are you doing that? And so it's a good question. Forrest, like me, was a mama's boy. And like me, unfortunately, my mum's not around anymore. But she gave me one piece of advice that if you're in a rush and you just want to take one piece today, and live by that creed, you'll do okay. Because she said, do one thing in your life that makes a difference. Now, that's pretty deep. I didn't really know what that was going to be, and I spent years trying to find out what that was. And then the idea of potentially running across America reared its head. And I told friends about this. I told them loads in the past. And one of them actually said to me, are you going to do it this time? Or just talk about it? Yeah, you got me there, Ben. So I decided to plan. And if I was going to do it, I need to do something big, because I was going to do it for charity. I was going to make a difference. And so that was pretty big. People had run across it once. Someone had gone from top to bottom, but no one had ever done Forrest's run. And hey, he's probably the most famous long-distance runner ever, so, it'd be some good footsteps to follow him. So when Forrest was running across the Mississippi for the 4th time, he gets pursued by a lot of reporters. And they say, why are you running? They couldn't believe you'd do all that running for no particular reason. Are you running for women's rights, for the homeless, for world peace, for the environment, or for animals? And he was just running because he just felt like running. But I needed something, so I decided to run for 2 charities who fulfilled all of those 5 things. And they are Peace Direct and the World Wildlife Fund. They're both amazing. I recommend you check them out. And they were a fantastic sort of source of inspiration for me as I carried on. Now, the more I ran, the more I got an insight into Forrest's character. He was an incredible, incredible man because he didn't judge anybody, whether it was on the background, their race, their intelligence, whether they had money or power or not. To Forrest, people were just people, to be treated with the same dignity and respect as anybody else, even though that courtesy was very rarely afforded to Forrest himself. He just went about his business in a quiet way and always did the right thing. Now, again, as I had a lot of time on the road, and you start to think, this Forrest, he's got a lot going on upstairs, You don't really think of him as a philosopher, but he was. And so I'm going to share a few of these with you today and see if they can help you and, maybe help others around you. The first one, I love this, which is, I don't know if we all have a destiny or if we're all just floating around accidental like on a breeze, but maybe it's both. Now, I didn't know if I had a destiny or not. Like, maybe I did, maybe I should. Maybe that's what my mum meant when she said that profound quote to me that I scratched my head over for years. But that's the sort of thing. Sometimes we'll go searching for it, and sometimes it'll come up and it'll just grab us, And that's what you need to do. Follow your goals, but let yourself be surprised sometimes by something just coming up and taking you, because, that's going to be a good path to go. And it doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to get a Nobel Prize, but just make sure that you leave your mark on this world. So don't let life pass you by. Now, stupid is as stupid does. That's another good bit of mum advice there, And this photo is from Kansas, where I saw this fantastic sign. Now, one person's stupid is another's genius. So, if you've got a goal and you feel it gives you a purpose, it might be ridiculous sounding, but as long as it doesn't hurt anyone, sort of give it a go. The only stupid ones are the ones who don't try anything. And the worst of those are the ones that tell you not to try either, to just be normal. But what is normal anyway? This is the hottest place in America, and there's 2 inches of snow on the floor. Not normal. Ultra running across America, that's not normal. If you've got a hobby, no matter how strange it sounds, and if people laugh at you for it, if you're enjoying it, just carry on. It's called having fun. You can be as normal as you want. Now, when you think you're normal and you're really happy with that, you might find some people around you trying to bring you down, not necessarily deliberately, but, just because it's not exactly what they're on. And some of you may have felt that you've never really been truly happy at all. And this is going to be really important for you, you know? You're the same as everybody else. You're no different. You know, your normal doesn't have to be someone else's normal. It just needs to be something you're comfortable with. Just keep on going. Now, if you are just keeping on going, you just need to remember this. You've got to do the best with what God gave you. Now, if God's not your thing, that's cool. Darwin and your genes will do just fine. You've got to make sure you put everything in. You don't have to run across a continent. You know, most people can't, and to be honest, most people don't want to. I'm not offended, by the way. Just whatever goals you achieve in your life, I am super happy. But what I'm really keen on is that you felt the process was worth it. You know, and if it was, I'll be giving you a high five at the end. Like, love for the process just becomes much more important, and that is the key to happiness. You'll realize that as you get a little bit older. But that doesn't mean it's not an excuse to try hard. This is Steve Prefontaine. He was like the best runner in America in the 70s. And he's got this incredible quote that you see at the top, which is to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. And I think that's not a bad creed to go on, you know? If you don't fail, you've got to put the past behind you before you can move on. Sometimes things just don't work out. Now, I struggled so long on the run just thinking how awful it would be if I didn't finish. And it was quite likely that I wouldn't finish. And how embarrassing it would be. And that was until someone close to me told me I was being a complete idiot. And they were right. Because the thing is, as long as you've tried your best, whether you get there or not, you know, those who really matter to you and to your life will just be super impressed that you've even just tied your shoelaces and got to the start line in the first place. Now, once you have started, you've got to keep on going. Forrest was a pretty lucky guy. Most of us need motivation to keep on going. And so whether that's a cause, to make somebody, you know, you love proud, or even just to do a good job, that's great, you know, but like sort of sometimes it's hard to believe. And believing in yourself is the key to others believing in you. And believing in something, I find, is the key to believing in yourself. But if you can't do that, you know, if it feels like there's no particular purpose, you just need to be more Forrest and just keep on going for no particular reason. And if you do that, you'll get to your ocean. Trust me. You know, I eventually got to mine, and it actually started a fire to get to another one. And so any goal that you have is going to be pretty tiring, right? So when I found myself on Highway 163, sort of, yeah, again, that's not Tom Hanks. He's a far better looking fella than me. I turned around and said to everybody, I'm pretty tired. I think I'll go home now. Some days aren't great. And so whether it's your inner barometer or whether it's someone who cares about you telling you things that aren't right, listen, respect yourself, your mind, your body. You know, when I was tired, I slept. When I was hungry, I ate. And when I had to go, well, I went. And there are 3 simple things you can do that will make your life so much smoother. Now, I can't talk about the philosophy of Forrest and not do the classic. I'll even do the accent for this one. Life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So life throws obstacles our way. And yet, we quite often don't know what they're going to be. And that can be a huge source of stress. Now, 2 little ways I found to get over stress. Sort of one of them was, if you can't make a decision, you secretly know what the answer is, but you just don't want to make it. So I would bring out like a third party into it. In my brain, I would call my tough boss, who would basically just say, there's no option. You just have to do it. And if you just say, well, I have to, there's no choice, I have to run from here to there, I have to turn up and go to school in the morning, suddenly the decision isn't stressful. You know, the only decision then is basically, do you have as much fun as you can on the way? Yeah, don't worry, it didn't hit me, as you can probably guess. When I left San Francisco, so this was at the end of the 3rd crossing, I was given a very big piece of news. Now, this goes to something I was saying about obstacles. Now, my girlfriend told me that she had to go home at this point because in 5 months' time, I was going to become a dad. Now, I was actually sad for one particular reason, which is because I knew that she couldn't be there at the end, and it ruined the whole thing for me, I felt. Now, quite often in life, we make obstacles seem either bigger than they are, or we even create them. So we just don't do something that seems difficult to us. And this obstacle ate away at me for a long time, and I nearly quit. But then I just took a step back and I realized I could find a way. So I just ran the mileage that I was meant to do, the 15,248. Went home, and then we had the baby. 3 weeks later, we all come back, and I found myself on that same spot again, sort of with our little baby. So as you see, sometimes in life, this is a summing up thing, you know. You just need to take a step back, reassess, because your goals still might be achievable. You just need to pick another chocolate. So sometimes in life, you know, you've picked all the good chocolates, they're gone, you know, and you still haven't found your solution. But such is life, you know. You can't change the past, so don't let the past define you if you don't like the definition. Just be grateful you had a box of chocolates in the first place, and don't be afraid to be whichever chocolate you want to be. Now, I really hope you've listened and taken some of this on board, and you've enjoyed listening, because I've enjoyed speaking to you. I just hope you take whatever chocolate you get and make the world sweeter as a result. Now, that's all I've got to say about that. Thank you very much.